A punishment that it stretches beyond a human lifetime, measured in thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years. It sounds almost impossible, yet in some corners of the judicial world, sentences are handed down that defy imagination. Today we journey through the dark corridors of extreme justice as we count down the 20 longest life prison sentences ever imposed. At number 20, we have Bobby Joe Long, a man convicted in the United States for murder and sexual assault. In a case where brutality knew no bounds, Long was given 28 life sentences, 99 years, and even the death penalty. While the death sentence loomed, his multiple consecutive life sentences were designed to ensure he would never step outside a prison wall. Number 19 belongs to Ariel Castro, convicted for a reign of terror involving sexual abuse and kidnapping. Castro's sentence was not simply a single lifetime, he was handed one life sentence plus an extra 1,000 years. This verdict, delivered in 2013, was crafted as a symbolic measure, a punishment so massive that it leaves no doubt that the system would never allow him any chance of redemption or release. At 18, we travel to Chile, where Miguel Krasnov was sentenced to 1,007 years for kidnapping and torture, although his sentence is, in practical terms, symbolic. Since no human can physically serve over a millennium, it sends a clear message: certain crimes demand a punishment that defies the natural limits. Number 17, Martin Bryant, the mass murderer behind the Port Arthur massacre in 1996, received a sentence of 35 life sentences plus an extra 1,035 years. Each life sentence represents a victim, a life ended, and the cumulative total is meant to mirror the horror of the massacre. In Australia, Bryant's sentence stands as one of the starkest symbols of society's collective grief and outrage. At number 16, we return to the United States with Billy Joe Godfrey. Convicted in 2015 for child abuse, one of the most reviled crimes in modern history, Godfrey was handed 35 life sentences, equating to 1,050 years. In a case that left no room for rehabilitation, this punishment was designed to permanently bar him from ever rejoining society. Number 15 is Abdulkadir Musharrapov, from Turkey. For his role in a deadly nightclub shooting, Musharapov's sentence came as 40 life sentences plus an additional 1,368 years. Although such an astronomical figure cannot be served in reality, Turkish law caps prison terms for fraud and similar crimes. The symbolic weight of this sentence underscores the gravity of his offenses. At number 14, René Lopez received a sentence of 1,503 years in the United States for child abuse. In a judicial climate where protecting the innocent is paramount, this sentence, although not meant to be literally served, symbolizes society's absolute intolerance for crimes against children. Next, at number 13, we have Barry Walker. Convicted of multiple counts of sexual assault against minors, Walker was sentenced to 39 life sentences plus an additional 1,710 years. This case, handed down in 2022, shocks even the most hardened observers with its sheer numerical magnitude, each year a reminder of the lives irreparably harmed by his actions. Number 12 is Michael J. Delvin. Facing charges of child abuse, Delvin's punishment included 74 life sentences plus 2,020 extra years behind bars. Delivered in 2007, this sentence not only punishes but also stands as a societal denunciation of child exploitation in any form. At number 11, Larry D. Keel was sentenced to an astronomical 501 years for drug trafficking. While the nature of his crime might seem less immediately violent than others on our list, Keel's sentence was constructed from multiple charges, each stacked consecutively, to ensure that he would never be granted freedom. Number 10 is one of the most infamous cases in recent history. James Egan Holmes, the mass murderer behind the Aurora shooting of 2015. Holmes was given 12 life sentences for the outright murders, in addition to another 3,318 years for attempted murder and other related charges. This sentence, calculated down to the last detail, was meant to symbolize the extensive and far-reaching damage of his actions. If you are still watching, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. At number 9, we cross continents to Israel. Abdullah Barghouti, convicted for a murder that claimed 66 lives, received 67 life sentences plus an additional 5,200 years. Although actual time served is limited by national law, the sentence itself is a powerful symbol, a resounding statement that the crimes of terrorism and mass murder are beyond any form of pardon. Number 8 introduces Adnan Oktar. In Turkey, for fraud and sexual abuse, Oktar was sentenced to an almost surreal 8,658 years. While the laws ultimately prevent such a sentence from being served in full, the number remains a striking emblem of the judicial system's determination to mark his crimes in perpetuity. At number 7, Dudley Wayne Kaiser, known as a born killer in the eyes of prosecutors, was sentenced to 3 life terms plus an extra 10,000 years for murder. His case, stemming from a series of homicides, including the killing of his wife, was retried after his initial death sentence was overturned. The final, enormous cumulative sentence leaves no question: some acts of violence are so unforgivable that the law must respond in kind. Number 6 belongs to Darren Ben Alfred Anderson. Initially sentenced to 2,200 years for a string of crimes including rape, robbery, and kidnapping, Anderson appealed his sentence. The court responded by extending his punishment to a total of 11,250 years, a record-setting figure born from a lengthy legal process that left no room for future parole. At number 5, Putit Kithathradalak from Thailand was convicted of fraud on a staggering scale, running a Ponzi scheme that defrauded over 40,000 people. Initially sentenced to 13,275 years, his punishment was later reduced by half due to his confession, yet it remains among the longest ever handed down. This sentence, though ultimately curtailed by national law, serves as a symbolic condemnation of economic crimes that have widespread social impact. Number 4 is a case that combines the fates of 2 offenders in the realm of child abuse. Alan Wayne McLaurin, alongside Darren Ben Alfred Anderson, received a combined sentence of 21,000 years. This unique situation, where multiple convictions result in a staggering aggregate sentence, underscores the judiciary's commitment to ensuring that crimes against children are met with the harshest punishment conceivable. At number 3 stands Charles Scott Robinson, whose 30,000-year sentence is the longest ever given to a single individual for multiple counts. Convicted in Oklahoma for raping a 3-year-old girl, Robinson's case is a grim testament to society's absolute rejection of sexual crimes against children. Each 5,000-year term was imposed consecutively, ensuring that his punishment would be as eternal as the crime itself. Our runner-up is a trio from Spain. Otman El Nawi, Jamal Zugam, and Emilio Suarez Treshores were collectively sentenced to a combined 42,924 years for their roles in mass murder and terrorism. Although Spanish law limits the time served to a maximum of 40 years, the sentence on paper remains an extraordinary number, a symbolic gesture that transcends practical enforcement and speaks to the gravity of their crimes. And finally, topping our list at number 1 is Chamoy Thipyaso from Thailand. In 1989, for orchestrating a $204 million pyramid scheme that defrauded over 16,000 people, she was handed a jaw-dropping sentence of 141,078 years. Though Thai law dictates that fraudeurs can serve no more than 20 years, and Thipyaso ultimately served only 8 years, the sentence itself remains the world's longest officially confirmed punishment. These extreme sentences, from brutal murders and sexual crimes to massive corporate fraud, are as much about sending a message as they are about punishing offenders. While in practice no one will serve 1,000 years, these numbers serve as powerful symbols of society's intolerance for certain crimes.